Hello everyone. So today we are going to be talking about an aria from the Cantata number 78 by J.S. Bach. So Bach had a day job. Bach was hired by multiple churches across his life to be the music director there and compose original material for their services. A cantata is a series of pieces pulled together for special events and services and commemorating different types of things within their religion. Now, cantata usually incorporated a small choir, some soloists or vocalists, and then usually a small accompaniment, which usually included different orchestral instruments, mostly strings, a harpsichord or an organ, which would be called the basso continuo, that was paired with cello, sometimes bassoon, and honestly, not too many winds at this time. So this piece is one aria from the cantata. So the soloists I had mentioned, there was two of them that sing together in this duet. So again, this is not an original bassoon piece. This is actually a vocal piece. And interestingly enough, it's a duet. And yet here you are as a solo instrument. Now, yes, you will be accompanied by a pianist who will probably play some of the other parts. But interestingly, this isn't just you to play one of the duet parts. You don't play just one soloist's part. Instead, it's kind of a combination of the two. So the way it was arranged is kind of going back and forth between the two duet parts. So what does this mean for us? Well, first and foremost, we have to recognize that that means that there is text to this. So there's actually some words, some language that you might want to look at. So I've actually put that in the bottom of the video, both the original language, which is German, as well as two translations. So this is going to help you kind of interpret a little bit about what this piece is about. But in reality, there's some other things I would like to talk about when it comes to the bassoon. There's three things. One's a quick thing, and then two are going to be a little longer. So the quick thing is an incorrect note, which we'll talk about. Then the two things that are a little bit longer is this concept of tonguing as well as flicking or venting, which we've mentioned before in other videos. So, number one, the incorrect note. In measure 95, there is a little turn, a figure from a C to a B flat, because that's what's in the key signature. But based on what's happening beforehand and understanding that this little turn is not a part of the melody, but more of an embellishment, it's actually a B natural, not a B flat. So the way it's written is something like this. I'll play it from 94. But it should be played. Turns it a little bit happier. Alrighty, so that's the first thing. So make sure to get your pencil out and change that note to the right thing. Okay, so the next is tonguing. Why is this important? Well, because we are considering that this was a vocal piece and there's going to be text in this, we want to be articulate, just like you would when you're singing something. You have to think about your diction. So we want to be just as articulate. And because this piece can be a little repetitive in its ideas or concepts, we want to be engaging through how we use our tonguing. So I'll play a small little sample of it. I'm going to be nice and crisp tonguing so we understand how it can kind of make it feel like it's moving forward. Without that, it can get a little sluggish or maybe just not as engaging. Remember, there's two parts going on at the same time here. This is a duet. So in order to stand out from the other part that's singing at the same time, having a crisp articulation or a crisp diction would help differentiate between the two different lines. So make sure that you have some nice crisp articulation when it says so. The next thing, the third thing, is actually the most complex, which is something called flicking or venting. So this piece sits in what I call the cracking area, which is half holes, F's and G's, F sharps and G's, I apologize. So F sharps and G's usually have half holes. We've got a lot of G's in here and a few F sharps. And then A's, B flats, and C's are the area where we are thinking about flicking or venting. So what does this mean? This is a more advanced technique. I'm not gonna lie, this is something that takes some practice. But for a piece that constantly repeats these notes over and over again, you're gonna need to focus on maybe working on this to get it apart as the piece. So what do you mean by flicking or venting? Naturally, A's, B flats, and C's in the instrument don't always come out as cleanly as we want. So if we are articulating them, they get some crunchies in there. If we flick or vent, it removes that fuzziness, it removes that crunchiness. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about how to do that. So how do we flick? How do we vent? Alrighty, so we have two keys that we're going to need to worry about. We already know about our whisper key. This is the key that we keep down within the staff. It's something we're very familiar with. Just the point in the staff where we lift up the whisper key is when we start flicking. Okay, so when we stop playing with our whisper key down, it enables our thumb to be able to move around and hit at some of the other keys. So the keys that we need to worry about is this long one here and the one above it. Now on your instrument, you may not have 5 keys like I do. You may only have 4. And the one you won't have is the one on the top, okay? So we'll take that one away. So if you only have 4, the one again that we're looking for is this long one here and the one above it. Another way you can identify it is look which way the rods are going. So these rods are going down and into the keys, versus the whisper key and the one above it goes up and into. So we're looking for the down and into. The long one here is called the A key. So we actually flick that on the A. And then the one above it we use for B and C. Now you may not need to use C. Depends. Some people do, some people don't, depending on how their instrument speaks and the reed style, etc. But I would definitely practice it, so give it a shot and see if it cleans up your tone quality. So when I say flicking, what do I mean? It does not mean you're holding down the note and sustaining. That actually opens up the venting too much and will sustain it for too long. The only time I would encourage that is if you're tonguing the same note like a lot for a very, very long time, and flicking it like this would get really annoying. But for the most part, do not sustain it. Instead, it's a boop. You just tap it. Like that, okay? And then the one above it. All right? So, when you're flicking, what it basically means, if I was going ta, 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 ta. Alrighty. So that gives you an opportunity to a little bit cleaner of a tone quality. Now, why is this tricky? Well, first we have to figure out where to aim. There's a lot of keys here, and you have to start practicing the motion. So you need to know where your thumb is going because you're skipping over a key or maybe 2 keys. So watching yourself go back and forth between the motion by, taking a step back and not actually playing, but just watching the hand motion would be a really important thing to do. Now, the reason why this is a little tricky is because a lot of these notes are right next to each other. So when we have da 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 da, we start on an A and we go to B flat, so it ends up being da 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 da. Okay, so we're flicking a lot of these keys. So if we're going back and forth between A and B, it means we're flicking a lot of notes or venting a lot of notes, and that's why this can be a bit of a challenge. But it's also why focusing on this and cleaning up your tone quality can make it sound so much better, because we do have a lot of the same notes. So we want to make sure it's nice and clean. Alrighty, so this is a technique, like I said, it's a little bit more advanced. It may take some time to get under your fingers, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. Keep moving on, learn the piece itself. But in the long run, this is a technique. If you want to continue being a bassoonist, you're going to need to learn. So you might as well start trying a little bit here and there. In scales, in simple passages, in your repertoire at schools. Give it a shot, because this is a technique you're going to need to know. Alrighty, so quick review. What did we talk about today? First and foremost, we had that wrong note in measure 95, so make sure to change that to a B natural. Second is the tonguing. We want to keep this tonguing invigorating. Again, this is a piece that had text and diction, so we want to make it crisp, we want to make it articulate, and we want to make it engaging, because sometimes this can get a little repetitive. Without the other part, without hearing the piano, we just don't know how it corresponds. So while you're practicing it yourself, you'd be like, okay, this is an interesting melody. I just keep playing the same idea over and over again. Using your tonguing and articulating and moving forward with that will help make it engaging and interesting over the long run. Okay, so tonguing is important. Now, the last thing, as we mentioned, which is the long one here, is the flicking and venting. So what does that mean? That we need to use our thumb on A, B flats, and C's, mainly B flats because that's what we have in the piece, but we also have B natural, so those two. So we need to learn this flicking and venting technique if we really want to clean up the tone quality. Again, it's a more advanced concept, so it's going to take some time and a lot of practice, but it's definitely worth it because it'll make it sound so much better. All right, so that's what we have today for the Cantata 78, the Aria from that by J.S. Bach. Go practice.